Getting brand deals and sponsorships when you're just starting out as a creator can be super intimidating, especially if you're looking around at other creators in your niche or in other niches and you're saying, how are they getting so many deals? I don't understand. So if you're a smaller creator and you want to start getting some sponsorships in 2025, here is my honest advice. Tip number one is you need to get out of your head about follower count. Perhaps one brand told you one time when you had reached out to them, or maybe you tried to apply on a sponsorship brand deal platform for a campaign. You like enter your channel or your follower count and they're like, there's like an error message. We only work with creators or influencers who have 10,000 followers or some arbitrary milestone. And you got frustrated, right? It's like, I feel like I've built up a really solid platform. I have great engagement. So why do I have to have this threshold? And perhaps the mistaken belief was that, okay, well, since this one brand has that threshold, I guess that's what every brand thinks, right? And so I'm just gonna stop reaching out to brands or stop applying. And that could not be further from the truth, especially if you are a creator who has a very specific niche. And I talk a lot about the fact that, I've got about 50 creators in my sponsorship coaching program, and the majority of them, the overwhelming majority, have a very, very specific content focus. Like they are the largest, creator in healthcare SaaS, software tool reviews or something, right? Something like very, very specific. One of my favorite examples is Dr. Alex. She has a business called Digital Pathology Place. And so she's got a bunch of these like decision makers in her audience, other physicians, other professionals who are listening to her podcast or following her on LinkedIn, but she doesn't have like millions of followers, right? Because she covers a very niche topic and she is absolutely crushing it with brand sponsorships. Because think about it, if you are a medical instrumentation or tooling company or something, or a supplies company in that niche, there's not an infinite amount of places that you could go to advertise, right? And so they look at who are the top people in this field? And you know what? We're probably gonna roll out the red carpet for them. We're gonna allocate large budgets to them because again, there's a limited supply of the amounts of the types of people that we could partner with. And so you have to kind of have this mental shift to realize, like, especially if you're a creator who is kind of a large fish in a small pond, that can mean that you can oftentimes command a really healthy rate when you reach out to these brands. And especially too, the brands in your niche may have never worked with creators before because influencer marketing is not really kind of like a strategy they've really considered before, right? That, oh yeah, influencer marketing, that's for like consumer focused brands, right? No, actually, B2B influencers is really a growing vertical. So you just gotta get out of your head about this stuff. My second piece of advice is that you're gonna get rejected a bunch of times, and that's okay. Like you're gonna get, let's say 50 no's on the pathway to your first yes. And in reality, like, could you have the tenacity to reach out to 49 brands and just know that, like, I have to like push that boulder up a hill in order to get to the other side of it? Because again, you're gonna learn a lot from, let's say, those first 5 that you send out, from the first 10 that you send out. In fact, in my new book, Sponsor Magnet, which you can get at sponsormagnet.com, of course, I talk about, like, there's 2 really important things when it comes to putting together a really solid pitch. It's what you say and who you send it to, both of which are equally important. So if you're focusing on you're focusing on how many followers you have and how many views you're getting and what your audience demographics are, and the brand sees this email and they're like, I don't know who this person is, delete, right? Versus focusing on them, focusing on, research that you've done where it seems like you're talking about things that they care about, a campaign that they ran last year. Hey, you gonna be running this again this year? Or, oh, hey, I saw that you're releasing this new AI tool in Q1 or Q2 of 2025 or something. Are you gonna be running a campaign about that, right? So like focusing on their business outcomes is a huge part of it. And then the second thing is, hey, who are we actually sending this email to? Are you just sliding in the brand's DM on social media? Hey, I'd love to collaborate with your brand. Or sending it to like press@brand.com or something, and you get getting this like, auto response and just being like, shucks, like what's going on here? And I think a lot of creators, they make errors in either one or both of those areas, and then they just convince themselves that pitching doesn't work, when it absolutely does. But you have to learn how to craft a compelling pitch that brands will actually respond to. But again, it's this mindset of knowing that like this is just, it's a learning process, right? As with anything. I sent so many terrible pitches in the beginning when my wife and I were starting out because I just didn't know any better. I didn't learn this skill in school, did you? Because I didn't take negotiation classes in like undergraduate or whatever. No, I just like, I thought I'm just like learning on the fly, right? And so of course, like I'm hoping that this book is a big shortcut for you, but just like having the confidence, knowing that like, okay, I'm just gonna expect that I'm gonna get rejected, I'm gonna get ghosted. It doesn't mean that I suck. It doesn't mean that my business sucks or my platforms or my channel or my content or whatever. It's just that I'm not saying the right things to get on the radar of these brands. My third tip is that there are going to be interactions that you have with brands that you feel are insulting. So whether this is the brand coming back and saying like, no, we're not interested, just flat out rejecting you, that sucks. Or they're saying something critical about your content, it's not the right fit, we don't think you're at the right point, like come back to us when you like get more followers or you improve your, you get more experience or you have a better quality content or whatever. Some version of that, and it's gonna suck. It's gonna feel like the dark night of the soul. You're gonna hear sad violins playing in the background. You're gonna like stare deeply, existentially into the mirror. It's gonna suck. And that's natural because inherently, like creating content, especially out there on the internet when anyone can comment on it, it's a vulnerable thing. And we're all humans. And it can be really tricky to be objective about those types of feedback that we get from brands. I want to share a quick story. I had a creator that reached out to me who has a pretty sizable LinkedIn following. They have a pretty sizable newsletter, and it was kind of speculatively created this YouTube video about one of their favorite software tools, right? And they once they published that video, they reached out to the brand at the kind of the generic press email and saying like, hey, like they're excited. Right? They're like, hey, just want to let you know I gave you a shout out in this video. Thought you would enjoy it, and hey, would love to chat other partnership opportunities. They felt as though kind of creating this speculative content would be their foot in the door to open up, potentially a larger compensated collaboration with that brand. And so what happened was that they got this kind of generic response from the brand, and it was basically like, hey, thanks so much. We don't pay people to make content about us, but if you want to buy more equipment, here's the link to like our e-commerce store or something. And then they didn't even sign a name. They just said like, brand team or whatever, thank you, brand team or whatever. The creator sent me a screenshot of that interaction and they were really upset. They were insulted, they were flustered, and it turned them from an Uber fan into like an Uber hater, like overnight. And I had to take a step back, and they also shared that they said some choice words in reply to the brand, that was a whole nother story. But I had to kind of walk them off a ledge a bit and help them understand like what actually just happened here. First and foremost, the person who responded to this inquiry at this like generic press email where they get tons of inquiries, right, is probably a frontline customer service employee. This is not a decision maker on the marketing team. This is someone who has been tasked, maybe not even on the brand team, maybe it was someone like a community or a social media engagement, community management agency is handling these inbound requests because they get so many that are crappy, right? And so this is just the front line. It's like, okay, here's the boilerplate template of like what we say when people reach out asking for free stuff or asking for a paid partnership or whatever. Just like copy and paste this and just send this to them. In all likelihood, based on what I reviewed, that's probably what happened. So this is not someone who's like a decision maker. Okay, so that's what you have to understand. And then the second thing is that when a brand is not signing their name, like, oh, Jane Smith on the marketing team or whatever, it's not like it's just like a form, a boilerplate thing that they're sending to you. And so you can't go from 0 to 60 and just assume that the brand hates you. The brand is like purposely trying to like, insult you because of this one interaction with this brand. And I just talk about this a lot in my book, which is you have to put your hat of empathy on, right? You have to understand like, okay, this is what's probably happening, and what a better strategy would be to, okay, let's zero in on the exact contact at this brand that is probably responsible for paid partnerships. That's number one. And then the second thing is like, okay, yeah, whoop-de-doo, you made a free YouTube video about them. A lot of brands will think, okay, well, they're talking about us for free. Why should we pay them? It's actually your job to articulate to them exactly what you, in addition to this free shout out that you did, which is great, what are the additional things that you can do for them? And oh, by the way, here's how much it's gonna, be, and you scope it all out for them so that you just saying like, oh yeah, like it'd be great to figure out a way to collaborate. In their mind, they're like, I don't know how I can collaborate with this person. I don't know this person, right? So the onus is on you to actually put together something tangible that they can react to. The fourth piece of honest advice is you cannot control the actions of your peers in the industry. This one is really tough. I get a lot of messages from creators who feel very frustrated that, let's say in the tech space, there's a lot of tech creators, right? Or even like travel and hospitality creators. They get frustrated because there's so many people who are just willing to accept a collaboration for free stuff, for a gifted product, for access to the latest and greatest camera gear or tech gear or smartphone or whatever, or a free trip somewhere, right, instead of compensation. And it's so important to understand that like that is going to happen from now until the end of eternity. Like there's just gonna be a unlimited and infinite supply of people who are going to accept the free thing. And brands are counting on that. But what you have to do is differentiate yourself from those people who are just gladly accepting that free thing to help the brand understand how you can serve them in other ways. So for example, if you get an inbound inquiry from a brand who's offering something for free, your first order of business is to understand more about their overall influencer strategy. For example, you can ask them a simple question. Oh, great, yeah, this is awesome that you're working with other creators and they're accepting free stuff, great. Out of curiosity, do those creators also grant you the rights to use their content for paid advertising? Because that's something that I specialize in. Let me know if you'd like to see a few investment options for what that might look like, right? And so you're basically pivoting, you're saying, hey, here's my expertise, here's what I focus on, here's this my zone of genius here. Want to have a call, chat about this? Maybe the brand has never even done anything like that. This also can be a really effective strategy when a brand is offering you to join their affiliate program or be an ambassador or something like that. Like, hey, do your affiliates grant you the rights to use their content for paid ads? That's what I do. Again, rather than just reverting to this universal answer, which is what everyone gives, is like, oh, I'm only focusing on paid partnerships right now, which you basically just slam the door in the brand's face. You're now this could potentially lead to a broader conversation. Because again, a lot of times creators think that brands have it all figured out. They've got this giant marketing team, they've mapped it all out, and they have an infinite amount of resources to like make this stuff happen. It might just be 2 people on the marketing team or 1 person on the marketing team, and you saying, hey, I would be more than happy to jump on a call with you to give you some insights of what I see as working on short form video right now. They will jump at that chance. And even if it doesn't lead to an immediate deal right then in that moment, that may lead to a deal 3 months down the line. I share this story where there was an agency that we worked with for a normal social media activation. I think it was like an Instagram activation. And throughout the course of that negotiation, we had floated the idea of doing a live stream on Amazon, like a live commerce activation. And though we couldn't wrap it into the deal at that time, they came back later, about 2 months down the line, and said, hey, we've got a client who's actually interested in maybe doing an activation like this. Can you tell me some more details about this? And so I fired up an asynchronous video, like a Loom, and I shared my screen and I said, here's how it works. Here's everything you need to know. When you're having this conversation with your client, here's how it would actually work. There's a carousel below the video, and here's how we would do it, and film B-roll in advance to give to the brand for approval, and the whole thing, right? And the brand responded, the agency rep responded, and their minds were blown. They could not believe that I took, 7 minutes out of my day to film this video, without any guarantee of a deal, but I've been doing this for so long that I understand this is how relationships are built. I have now carved out a little place in my agency contact's mind that this Justin and April, they are someone who we can rely on and have the humility to ask, hey, we don't understand this. Can you tell us how this works? Right? That's a humbling thing to ask, basically say, I don't know how this works, right? Can you explain this to me? And us to have our ego in check and being like, sure, yeah. More than happy to help you understand this more, because they're gonna come back to us over and over and over knowing that that's the type of partner that we are, right? And so I just think this is such a critical mindset, is you cannot control the behavior of other people, and they're gonna do that all day long. And so your job is to help them understand how you're different. And tip number 5 for getting your very first brand deal is, I don't think it matters how much you get paid for the first deal. Hold the phones here, you're thinking, Justin, hold on, you're a sponsorship coach. Aren't you supposed to help me negotiate more money for my deals? And of course that's the case. But there is something to getting that very first deal and actually getting paid $50. I don't care. $100. There's some money exchanging hands here. There's something to be said for that, crossing that chasm, achieving that milestone. It flips something in your head. When you were previously only accepting free stuff and now you actually are getting a PayPal notification for that $100 or something. There's something to that. For us, it was realizing what we're actually bringing a lot to the table here. Understanding what it's like to go through the motions of negotiating with a brand and reviewing a contract, right? Putting a concept together for the brand that they can approve, creating the assets and then getting feedback on those assets, understanding how to like ensure that you're publishing everything correctly and on time and all that, putting together an analysis, a post-campaign report for the brand for them to understand both the qualitative and quantitative success and opportunities for that campaign. Again, these are all the 8 steps of my sponsorship wheel that I talk about in my book Sponsor Magnet, and there's just something to be said about going through all of those steps, and frankly, you're gonna screw some things up, and that's okay. I think to just kind of start going down the path of understanding your value, understanding your worth, understanding the types of brands that you like collaborating with, the types of brands that you don't, understanding how your audience responds to those sponsorships, things that you can do better next time to potentially proactively overcome their objections to the sponsorships. Wow, I didn't know that I was gonna see these 5 comments all related to like this one thing. I guess the next sponsorship I should talk more about that, or give a demonstration in a slightly different way or whatever. So again, I don't think it matters at all how much you make on that first deal, as long as you're charging something. Words actually matter a lot when you're negotiating with the brand. So here are some secret words you can say to make brands pay you more.